Obviously, today we're going to talk about the updates since August's webinar, or the manual update progress that we've been making sure everyone does. The Act 51, which is pretty much done, and we're just finalizing it before we release it. And then obviously, we're going to talk a bit about the IRS, the SSA, and getting all your ID set for this upcoming tax season in preparation for that. Our next webinar will be October 6th. So in cash receipts, obviously we updated cash receipting to our new form of window, and we added the ability to edit or add memos to cash receipts that have already been saved. Prior to that, when you save it, that was a hard save and you couldn't edit it after, but we added the ability to edit or add a memo after the fact. So if you need to type in like they paid this on this date, you can now do that. We added a setting under the My Works tab in settings that will allow or disallow negative inventory amounts on attachments. So if you have that checked under My Work settings, it'll allow them to enter in negative amounts. Otherwise, it'll give them a message saying you entered in a negative amount. We updated void payments to only load payments that have not already been cleared through bank reconciliation. Void payments were recently converted to our new style of window, and we realized that you should be voiding a payment that you've already cleared through bank reconciliation. We added a default calc type adjustable straight dollars when creating a deduction code. So when you click on new, it should just come up as an automatically with adjustable straight dollars as a deduction code. That way it'll always have a calc type. We added the ability to select dependent care box 10 to deduction type. So now when you choose the W2 option in deduction types, there'll be a dependent care as an option. We added a button in pay stubs to save your pay stubs to document management. So if you go into export pay stubs, there'll be a button that says save to document management, and it'll save them to document management. I will show all this when I'm done. I'm just kind of going through the highlights. If you recreate the pay stubs, it will overwrite the previously created pay stubs. So let's say for a payroll, you created them on 9/7, and then you went in on 9/8 and recreated them. They will overwrite the previous pay stub. So you only have one copy. You won't have multiple copies of them. So we made sure that there won't be like old pay stubs. They'll be just the most recent version of that pay stub. We also added the ability to save W-2s to document management. So, and again, just like in export pay stubs, there'll be a button in a W-2 forms that has the save to document management. And I believe if it hasn't been already, this will be added to, this is where My Work will be getting their pay stubs from, is document management W-2s. In view time cards menu item, we added the ability to see what time cards are missing. So we have a button that says load missing time cards, and it will load all the employees who have missing time cards for any given day. We added a bunch of validation rules on void payments. Obviously, you cannot void a payment that has already been voided. As I mentioned before, we cannot void a payment that has been reconciled, because once you've reconciled it, you shouldn't be able to void it. You must first unreconcile it and then void it. The void date must be on or after the effective date of a payment. You should be able to have a void date before the actual date of the payment. If you set a void date that is later than the current fiscal year end, then the void date will be set to the payment date. So if you set one for the future, let's say your fiscal year ends 12/31 of 2025, and you set the void date to 1/1 of 2026, it'll automatically reset the void date to the payment date. So if the payment was, let's say the payment was August 1st, it'll then set it back to August 1st. One of the other things we did in the month of August was we updated the renumbered checks to our new style of window, and we now prevent checks that have been cleared from being renumbered. So if you have used our bank reconciliation and cleared the check, you won't be able to renumber the check because, again, it had already been cleared by the bank. And then also one of the changes we made, instead of loading by journal, checks we now load by financial institution. So you select your financial institution and not journal, and then the list of checks will load. In account maintenance, we added Act 51 line as a column in the account search window, so you can quickly look up any account number that you want in any Act 51 line to see what accounts are tied to that line through the filter. And one of the issues that we had was in import time cards, attachments would not be properly imported. So we recommend that if you did any import between the update that was released on August 28th and before the fix we released the next day, equipment and or inventory may have not been properly imported. If you find any issue with inventory, you're going to have to call us because the inventory doesn't unimport. If you have not ran payroll yet for those time cards, then you could just unimport and reimport the time cards. That'll fix the equipment issue. This only affects time cards that were imported, not entered, so any time cards entered on those days are fine. It's just if you happen to run an import in that window, then I recommend you check your payroll post to make sure the equipment got imported properly. Again, the issue was quickly identified and fixed, but if you happen to catch that window, then I recommend you just double check that before doing payroll. And also, if you have not done the manual update, this does not affect you because you would not have gotten this update. So if you haven't done the manual update yet, I know most road commissions have done the manual update, but if you happen to not have done it, you would not have gotten either of these updates, and your import still works properly. All right, let's start with payroll and export pay stubs. So we added a new button that'll save when you create the pay stubs. It'll then save them to document management. I'm not going to show that, but all you got to do is just click save and it'll save it to document management. Same with W-2 forms. We added these buttons. One of the ones I want to highlight is we updated renumber checks. So we go into here, you select your financial institution. You got your check start, your check end date, you load checks, and these are all the checks that you have within your given date range. I believe it defaults to your fiscal year start and then today's date. So as you can see, you have if the check has been cleared or not. So these checks have been cleared, these have not. And like before you enter in your starting check number, I'm gonna go 69945. My ending check number is going to be 8102. And then my new starting check number is going to be 8103. And this should give me a error. Yep, it contains a check because I included this check. So if I update it to 810, so I'm going to renumber these three checks. It was renumbered successfully, and if I go in here and run it again, you'll see the checks have been renumbered. So it's not complicated. It's like I said, the biggest change is that now it's by a financial institution and check date and not journal. You don't load a journal first. So it should be, in my opinion, it should be a little bit easier to find and renumber the check you're looking for because you don't have to know the journal number. Because a lot of times the journal was in the pay journal and not in deduction types. We added dependent care. So in your W-2 setup, we now have an option for dependent care, and it will go in the dependent care of the W-2, which I think is box 10, but sometimes the IRS might change it. And then I believe if you click new, yeah, it gives you adjustable straight dollars as the default. And in My Work settings, we now go to My Work. We now have this that allows, if you check that, it will allow negative inventory amounts on time card attachments. This one allows negative inventory for like inventory, direct inventory, but this one will allow on time card attachments. So we got that request, and it defaults to not allowing it. We also added a help down here. So for help videos, as we add more videos for settings exclusively, then you can click this button and it will go to the help videos for exclusively these settings and what they all. So we're going to be adding more to that in the future, like payroll, view time cards. So we added this load missing time cards button, and it will load all the employees who have missing time cards for the day. Obviously, I don't enter in time cards every day for everybody. So you can see it has missing for today, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. So we also added this column that has days. So not only do you have the effective day, we also made it like, okay, 9/8 is Monday. So you can easily look at it and see. Because sometimes you just look at 9/8 and you don't, is that a Monday or a Tuesday or a Sunday? You just look at a date, but now we added the days so you can see, oh, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So just to make it easier to see what they're missing. And then we also added days to show. So obviously, a lot of people may not have time cards for Saturday or Sunday. So if you don't want to see those days, and say now you have Saturday, Sunday as well. So, and I can get rid of Friday too if you don't have time cards for Friday. So there's a lot of flexibility with viewing the missing time cards. All right, and then in customers, the last thing I want to highlight is in cash receipting. We have this cash receipting, and we now allow you to, even though it's already been added, update and then save it. So you can now update just the memo on a previously saved cash receipt. So if in case you want to add in something like they paid or paid on a certain date or any kind of information you might need for the memo, you can now add in after the fact. You don't have to add it as you create it. So I just want to highlight that. So I'm going to move on to something that most of you have already done, which is the manual update. I just want to highlight again for those of you who haven't done it yet. You won't be getting any more updates in ProFund until you do this manual update. The required part is the server update. We also offer TeamViewer as a host as unattended access, so we can access your server without the help of your IT. So if you call us like, hey, my work isn't working or there's something wrong, we can easily get into the server ourselves and not have to wait for IT. And again, that is optional. If you don't want that, it's fine with us. We're just offering it as a utility and a tool for us to help service you better. We will need administrative access to the server to apply the update. So if you haven't already, please contact your IT and let them know we need to run the manual update and possibly install the TeamViewer host. If you're not sure about that, please talk to your IT about TeamViewer and decide if you want that or not. Again, it's not required. It's just something that we want to provide. So in case your IT isn't always there, when you call us, we can resolve the issue without having to wait, half a day. So we don't want, my work to be down half a day because your IT couldn't get back to us in time. You can call us at our support line at 866-634-9991 extension 2. It takes about an hour and a half. However, we've seen most times it's taken under 40 minutes. I would say it's only been a couple of cases where it's taken longer than an hour, but most times it takes under 40 minutes. So it doesn't take too long. You can also email support@cottagecheek.com if you want to schedule a time. Where again we do this 9 to 4, and I believe the nag screen has already been added to that for administrators when they log in. So we want to make sure that we get this done sooner rather than later. And we will be contacting some of the road commissions that haven't done it yet, just to make sure that they are aware. So if you haven't done it yet, you may be getting a call from us this week. I just want to point that out. Does anyone have any questions on the manual update before I move on? And again, the reason why we wanted it to be a manual update is because the update itself for our database takes a bit of time, and we don't want people accidentally cutting it out halfway through, and that really screws up your database. So we just want to make sure we get a clean backup of your data before we run it. So that's the reason why it's because there is a major change internally to your database that we did this time to set us up for the future when we continue moving some of the more heavier screens into our new style of window. So the next thing I want to talk about is Act 51. That menu item is almost complete. I've been working with Brian Decker, the former finance director at Chippewa County Road Commission. He's been helping me get the first 17 pages, well, the first, I want to say 16 of the first 17 pages done. And we're pretty much done. We're just finalizing a couple of things, and then we will have it set for release here coming up. It's going to be in the general ledger tools area. It is an Excel style helper for the Act 51 report. There will be a button where you can actually save it to Excel so you can get all the features of an actual Excel document, but it is an Excel document in and of itself. It is set to be released by the end of this month. I know we thought we might be done at the end of August, but we had a couple of other pressing issues that came up that delayed this by a couple of weeks. So, like I said, we are almost done. So what you're going to do is assign account numbers to the Act 51 line in accounts menu item. Again, I'll show all this. I'll go through a more in-depth tutorial than I did in August, as now this is pretty much finalized. So you assign account numbers to the Act 51 line in the accounts menu item. So the one thing this is not, it is not a generator. It is supposed to be a utility that collects and organizes your data to help you complete the Act 51 report. You're still gonna have to verify the numbers presented on the spreadsheets. So do your due diligence. It's not something that you just click and go. It should be just make sure you verify those numbers are correct. We will have a utility in the tools section of the modules that you can run that will either reset all Act 51 lines to the default, because we are going to have a default. It'll clear all the Act 51, so no account number is assigned, so you could clear all that without having to go into accounts and hand clear them. Or an update button that will update the Act 51 lines to our default, but it will keep the account numbers you've already assigned. So we'll have three options. One, that resets all the account numbers to the default one that we've assigned. Two is you clear all the Act 51 lines, so they'll be so it'll come up blank. Or you could just click update. That'll just up if you've already been playing with it and already assigned some, but not all, but you want to keep those, then you can run the update. So when this is released, we encourage everyone to verify the data by loading prior year's data. So we want to make sure that you can use prior year Act 51 to see how close it gets. Some things may be off because we've noticed that sometimes, even though it's included in the Act 51, some of your balance forwards are zero at the time you actually created your Act 51, but then when you did the post balances forward, it actually added data to that. So some of the internal numbers may be off, but the totals will still be the same. And let us know about any major discrepancies, if there's some account numbers that we may have missed. And again, we realize that not everyone's accounting structure is the same. Generally, we figured that most of the accounting numbers they use are the same across the board, but they may use 4 characters instead of 3 at the control level. So we're going to try to take that into account, but again, there may be a lot of stuff for some road commissions. There may be more manual work than others. It depends. But the good news is once you set it up, you don't have to keep setting it up each year. It should be, once you set it up, you should be good, basically to run it each year. So I'm going to go ahead and show it off. I'm going to pause right there for any starter questions on that one. Imagine there may not be any questions until after I show it off. But in General Ledger, under accounts, we have this Act 51 line that you can assign to any account number. And then we added this Act 51 line column. So I'm going to filter, and I'm going to filter by everything I have assigned. So I have like the 20101 is goes under the cash, which is line 1 of the Act 51. My 040 is 3F, which is Act 51 line. And you can see all the different ones. Like this one, the control 110, goes under both 6 and 169. So sometimes these account numbers are displayed in multiple places, the same number. So I made it so it's for 6 and 169. They both should have that control number. And we go all the way up to, if I go to the last code, I feel like this one is reported in many places. 244 looks like the last Act 51 line that we were easy. We also, a lot of the lines have a primary, local, and county column that they use. So we added, it's like for 218, we added primary, local, and county. Like a lot of these, if I go, let me scroll up to some revenues. Expenses too. But 88, they're all primary, local. So you can assign your account to the county, the local, or the primary, depending on how your road commission displays it on the Act 51. So we try to make it as flexible as possible because different road commissions report their numbers in different areas. So that's, like I said, here is not that. It's pretty simple. And then let's see, I want to go to 110. So if you go to like a 7th or 6th level, it'll say it's inherited from that line. You can also overwrite by actually assigning it, and it will display it. The data will be both displayed on the inherited line 6 and 169, and then whatever line you actually assign it on as well. So just so you know, that will happen. If you assign an account number here, we don't override this as well. So your data may be displayed twice, but both me and Brian didn't think that there's a case where you needed the 3rd level and the 4th level to be displayed in different areas. So we figured that's not going to be that big of an issue. So that's how you assign them, and then you just run the Act 51. You select your year, which is your fiscal year. And this typically for me, it takes about 30 to 40 seconds to run. So I just want to make sure you guys don't realize, oh, it's canceling out. It's running through a lot of calculations. That's why it takes so long. Eventually, we may look at performance, but for now, we just want to make sure we got all the calculations. Now, this is Chippewa's 2022 Act 51 report, which you can actually find online. So it is public information, so that's why I can show it. But you have your assets. The first 2 pages are right here. I had it at one point, but I could pull up his Act 51 and show you that indeed his total assets were 4,454,6105. So And then we have this little helpful drop down so you can see like what account numbers are assigned. We decided to keep the zeros in here so you can see that even though there's no data, so you can not be like, oh, I thought I assigned these account numbers to here, which you did. So you can see those. We may decide to get rid of them and only show account numbers that have data on them, but we haven't decided yet because with the roll up, it starts with everything hidden, all the sub accounts hidden. So first, it depends on if you guys want all the zeros to be there or not, just to see that these are all the account numbers that have been assigned to this one. Page 3, we have your fixed assets, which is your, again, all this is assigned. You could assign all these. I think its total liabilities are off, but and some of these are gonna have to enter in by hand. We can't autofill everything. There's some stuff that we just don't know how you use it. But the good news is once you assign it to a line, it'll show up on this line. Page 4, you got your revenues, you got your primary, local, and county revenues. You can click the plus arrow, it'll show you the different accounts. Yep, you each have under line 59, you have that. Looking for a nice big one. They still only each have one account. But as you can see, this is the formula. There's some of these have formulas, like engineering is split up between it's the same account underneath, but then it's multiplied by the total percentage, which this percentage is actually calculated internally, but I believe it's just the percentage of your total MTF divided by that. Or the other way around, actually, but it'll be this divided by that. Should be 0.61. Maybe I'm not sure. I have to look up that formula, but the number itself is correct. It matches what was reported back in 2022. So, and then you have your totals that get added up from your state resources. Your total state resources are at the bottom for your revenues. And then here you have your totals, which is, as you can see, it's quite the long formula. But it is all these totals like line 884, 76. Do I see 76? I see C20. Yep, there's 20. C30, which is 81, 0. I think if I click on the column, it'll highlight. Yeah, it'll highlight all the ones that are added up. So it's a formula, not just a number. So if you need to change something, you can just type in, let's say I want to change that to like this one. I want to make that 100. It'll decrease this, but it's a revenue, so it should be a negative 100. So let's go negative 1,000. So it's a little easier to see the change. So this went up by 1,000. Actually went up by 500 because it's so that's the one thing that I will say is a little tricky with this is because if you look under here, like this line is the total of these two, and this line is the total of everything, but we have to divide by 2, otherwise we're going to double count everything. So that was the cleanest way to get some of these when you have all these roll-ups was just to add everything starting with the section and then just divide by 2 as opposed to try to find each like 70 what row is in line, what row this is, and then add that, and then find out what row is in this one and add that. So all So while this and this do equal that, the formula itself is a little bit tricky for just, changing something here. So I just want to point that out. Just be aware that a lot of the sums are the total divided by 2 because obviously the data is, displayed here twice. Then page 6 is your expenditures. Page 7 is the fund balances. Page 8 is your equipment expense. You get all your fringe labor. Labor and fringe are on the same. Depreciation, all that. Again, all this is a sign. You got your fringe benefit. You got this is your fringe factor. And like I said, once you assign all these account numbers, then it should just automatically run for you. And each year you shouldn't have to change them. Page 10, you got your distribution expense. So there's your cost of roads. Page 11 is your statement of construction analysis. Now this is one of the few ones that I'm not going to do a breakout for because a lot of these have to be assigned by hand. This sheet may have to be done by hand because you can't just assign an account number because some of the work may be done by local, some may be done by primary. For the contractor, we tried to choose everything that's AP. So anything assigned to like 199 that's AP and local will go in here. And then anything else that's not will go here. So the totals actually still match, but some of this isn't quite 100% right because not every single AP may be under contractor. So it's one thing that some of this will just have to be done by hand. And that's why we created a save to Excel button so you can save it to Excel and do anything else you have to do to it. Page 12, again, just accounts receivable. You have your truck line maintenance and then your M.other. And I put some notes in there like this should match in 3B and 3C. If it doesn't, that means something either you didn't assign something correctly or you have some data numbers where they shouldn't be. Page 13 is another one that you'll have to assign by hand because it's your equipment capital outlay accounts, and those may change each year. Especially lines 215 through 222 that you may have to assign each year for your equipment capital outlay. Page 14 is your preservation, your 90% of your funds. Like I said, most of this is formula based. You just got to remember that a lot of the totals are divided by 2 if there's a roll up because of the account numbers. We don't want to double count everything. Page 16 is your indirect and equipment expense, which is line 243. And this one we decided to actually break out by SOE. So these are all the different level 6s. So obviously the activity is 511, but we broke it out at the 6th level and SOE so you can see what SOE and what account 6 goes with that. So I believe it's 511 is the only actually account number assigned to 243. So if you assign if you assign any other account number to this, it will do the same thing. Grab all the level 6s and display them like this. But since your activity should be 511, so I'm just saying it will work the same way for any level 3 that you assign. Heck, I think it'll work for any level 4 or 5. We just look at the level 6 and find the different SOEs. Same with your 244, which is your administrative expense, which is, I think, your 515s. Yep. It should be your 515s. And again, if you happen to have a different account number or anything like that, it will work just the same. And then the last tab is it's basically the distribution report at the third level in an Excel style. So each account number with the different transactions throughout the year. These are all transactions throughout the year, which is why it's 4,000 pages long. So that's kind of an overview on what the Act 51 helper is going to be. We're really hoping to have it should be done by the end of the month, barring any other issues that come up. But before I move on to our last topic, which is the IRS, does anybody have any questions on this? Oh, and I did want to point out again, I mentioned it last webinar, and we'll be pointing out again probably every webinar until even through January, that if you don't already know, MyWham will be ending December 2025. Michigan has created a website called MIUI. It is set to go live December 15th, 2025. And then when you file your fourth quarter 2025 taxes in January 2026, you'll be required to file them through their new website. They say they already said they're changing the upload file. In fact, they had just provided us the format for the new file, so we will have that in ProFund before December 15th, 2025 for you guys to use to upload to the new site. The LEO, which is a labor economic opportunity, they provide a monthly checklist of items to be prepared for the transition. If you haven't already signed up for their updates, please do. You can go to the MI University. Heck, you could just type in MyWham ending and you'll probably get some information on MyWham ending. So just want to point that out in case if you haven't heard that. So our last topic for today is I know it's a couple of months away, but now is the time you want to make sure that you have your ID.me all straightened out. Make sure you can still log into the IRS taxpayer portal using your ID.me login. And this is the portal where you file your 1099s. So I'm going to actually pull up the internet. And I wanted to show you that they added this recently. So you just I type in the IRS, which is Information Returns Intake System. Then I go into this one, e-file. And then this is their homepage. This is where you access the application. This is where you can sign into the taxpayer portal. However, they added this new thing called a 101 introductory presentation, which is actually a very good presentation on how to get started, how to sign up, how to register. It's a step-by-step. Which access, whether you be an issuer or a transmitter, it's a bunch of nice information. They talk about the different roles that you should be choosing. Say a nice thing. Transmission method, you're going to always want to choose the taxpayer portal /UI. They talk about the authorized users and then the application submission. They talk about the combined federal state filer info. And then a bunch of other things. So I want to point that out that they have a very nice guide on how to use their taxpayer portals for their 1099s. You want to make sure you have two people that can log in and access the taxpayer portal. Again, you're going to have two responsible officials already assigned to it. So if you happen to have a new employee that replaced an employee that had access, you're going to want to log in and remove the other employee and add in your new employee and then have them sign in, and they have to sign it themselves for both of you to get access. So they're going to have to create their own ID.me account and everything if you got a change in who uses it. So I just want to make sure. And it's a good best to get it now as opposed to in December. Also, make sure you can still log into the SSA with your ID.me. You're going to want to make sure that you can still upload your W-2s for that using, you can have AccuWage. Now, the one thing about the SSA is that you're supposed to, and we've had actually a chat with the SSA themselves, that the person who signed up for your SSA account is the only person who should be logging into that SSA account. So if, let's say, if I have access to ours here at Cogitate SSA account, I log in through my ID.me, and then I log into our account, the account ID, the SSA account assigned to me, and then I can upload our W-2s. Now, if I were to happen to leave for any reason, the person who were going to replace me, they would have to go in. They could create their own SSA account that's tied to their ID.me, and then they would have to request to their AccuWage and the ability to upload W-2s. So you're not supposed to use my ID for the SSA to log in and upload. And then it'll be a couple of weeks. They'll send the company the access code, and then you use that access code in your SSA account. So that, I believe on the phone I don't know if you can shut down an old SSA account so that way the previous people won't have access to it. I haven't had to do that. I just think they said that they won't be able to upload anymore. So the SSA is a little tricky if you need a different person to. You're not supposed to share accounts across people is what I'm trying to say. So, and if you're not sure, you can always call the SSA and wait 2 hours on the phone. Unless you call them early in the morning. If you call them when they first open, I think they open at 7 or 8 a.m. We haven't had much of a problem. But once it gets past 9:30, then typically you're going to be waiting an hour. So I just want to make people aware so they get all this taken care of now and it's not December. And because even with ID.me, it can take up to 2 to 4 weeks to get your taxpayer portal all straightened out. So I don't want you guys to be doing that while trying to get the year-end taxes.
You are now working smarter with ProFund Accounting. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.